recording. And then we are going to start to share our screen. Share screen, which one? I need to turn that on first. Okay. Because otherwise it won't share. Okay, here. Okay, so today we will start with a new topic about data aggregation. And the last class we discussed wrangling, data wrangling. Okay, and for data wrangling we mainly discussed the multi-index, multi-level of index, and we also discussed merge. We discussed the join and concatenation and the combine first, etc. So those we discussed. So those are part of the data wrangling, we call it. So today we are going to focus on aggregation, okay? And we will see and how to do grouping operation. And this part is very useful. And then the last part is also quite useful, okay? So the grouping. So let's see. The one of a very useful method is called group by. So we will see it's very powerful, okay? So first, let's take a look. We have this data frame. This data frame itself is quite straightforward, is that you have 4 columns. And you have default index, okay, not labeled index. And then what you did here is you said, I'm going to pick a data 1 column, is it? And I'm going to do the group by operation on the first column. And group by what criteria, is it? So over here you specify I'm going to group by key 1 column. And if you take a look at key 1, you will find it has either A or B. Is it either A or B? So it has some repetitive things. Is it? And because it has some repetitive, do some grouping by. Is it? So you have the group by method called, and it returns some group by object. Okay. So the grouped, you can see this variable. What it returns is some group by object. Okay, group by object. And on the group by object, so it itself won't give you any specific value. Okay, so remember this, it's an object. And because it's an object, so it has a number of methods it support, and you can do on it. So in this case, you can call the mean method on this group by object. And then what you will see the result is it? So it will give you group by category A, is it? So if K is A of the mean value from data 1. So what over here says, because it's mean value, is it? And this 0.74 something, it comes from what? It comes from A, and this A. So basically, you add 3 of this value together, is it? And divide by 3, is it? So that's the mean value. So calculate the average of those 3. Is it? So it's quite useful, is it? You don't need to use, normally what we learned is you loop through 1 by 1 and find if it's equals to A. As if it's A, okay, I keep adding them. And if it's B, you add it to B, and then you find the summation, and then you divide by the number of items. Is it? Over here, you can see you don't need to do that. Is it? You just call the group by the mean, and it will automatically calculate of this for you. Is it? So it's quite powerful. Is it? Okay, so that shows 1. And over here, it shows that you can also do group by number of key, not just a single index level, is it? So over here it says if you have hierarchical index etc. And consists of unique pair of keys, etc. And you can also do group by both of them or the number of them, etc. So in this case, you're going to group by the column data 1, etc. by key 1 and key 2. Those are multi-level index hierarchical. Then you call mean. Is it? So this is the result you're going to get. Etc. So the group by the introduction and stack and unstack last previous of units we already learned, etc. So you can review it if you want. And then next, let's see. It says the group case can also be any array of the right lengths, etc. So let's see. So in this case, you have a NumPy array called states you define, and you also define years, define years. And then what you said is, you said I want to group by that data 1 column, by the state and the year. What over here I specify, and then find mean, etc. And over here, states and the year doesn't belong to that, doesn't belong to any of the column here, etc. So, or index here. So you may be wonder, how can you do that, etc. And so you don't need to worry because it's going to do automatic mapping. Okay, so it will map the state and map the year with each corresponding row. So it will do the mapping. And after it does the mapping, then it can do the group by. Okay, so you can also, over here it says you can also group by and any array of the right length. So here a key point is it must be the right length, the array. Okay, so because it's based on the length of your data frame. And what next it just shows, you can also do, previously we already showed that. If you don't specify any column, etc., then it can do group by both columns. So data 1, data 2 columns. So nothing new here. And for the group by, so far what we discussed is regarding calculate the average, the mean, etc. What the next one shows is you can also do kind of like a count operation, you find how many items for your group by operation, based on the items that you want to group by. So here, if you call the sign, did you see it also tell you, okay, based on this group, how many items you're going to have, okay? And the next part shows that if you want to do the loop over the groups, so over here is you do some group by and then you just loop, What it give you here is that it will give you the name of this group by, and the detailed group information. Because over here, when we specify key 1, you have A, you have B, So that's why the name part is A and B, and the group part is the detailed information, okay? Because sometimes this may also be handy for you. And the next, let's see, the next cell, what it discussed is, over here we have our group by. The group by, what we just discussed, it returns a group by object. With that group by object, what you can do is you can do the list operation, and then you can convert it to dictionary. Okay, after you convert it to dictionary, then you can specify certain value from the index that will serve as the dictionary's key, So you can use dictionary's key to also retrieve the item. Okay, so that's regarding the group by converted to dictionary. And over here it shows for the group by. Group by, you can also do what? You can group by not just by the index, the specific index, that on your data frame you want to group by. You can also group by the data frame's data type. So this is interesting, is it? And also you specify it's going to be what? Axis is 1, so it's the column, is it? Because axis equals 0, that's row, okay? And then in this case, you see the result for the group by, what you have is, it's based on the data type, is it? So this is also interesting, give you the type. Okay, then the next detailed discussion about group by is, it says you can select a single column or the subset of the column to do the group by. Okay, so let's take a look here. So over here, you do the group by on that data frame, is it? But you select which column you do the group by, that data 1 column, is it? And group by what? You specify the index you wanted to do the group by, is it? And what over here, you do group by what? The operation on the group by, it's to do the summation, is it? Summation. So that's why the result is, it will return you over A of the summation and over B of the summation, is it? And the next is you can also specify, okay, you do the summation on the second column, data 2 column, is it? You can also do that. And you can also specify multi-level of index, is it, to do group by, and then over here to do the mean, okay? And for this one, what we do is, it's pretty similar. You specify specific column, is it? And then you specify the index you wanted to do the group by, and then you do some operation on the group by. So here it just shows multiple ways, okay, we can do the group by. Either you can select some column or subset of the column, and you can select a single index, or you can select multiple index, okay, to do your multiple level of group by, or just a single level of group by. And next, what it shows is you can do group by with dictionary and series. Okay, so let's see, how do we do this? In this case, what we will see is we first create a data frame. So this is our data frame. And with this data frame you created, you also gave the name of the column and gave the index, also the label, is it? And you also specify certain a couple of items with null values, is it? So the result of the data frame looks like this. So nothing new here. And then what next? This part, you just define a dictionary. So this is just a regular dictionary, is it? Okay, you said A is red and B is red, something like that, is it? So this is a dictionary. Okay, and then let's see, this is interesting. After you have that dictionary map created, is it? You can also do group by with that dictionary, is it? And you specify the group by the what? By the column, is it? And then in this case, you will see the result. This time it's not by the index, is it? This time it's group by what? By the column, is it? Because you remap. Initially a column just individual unique column A, B, C, D, E, is it? But after you do the map, A, B, and E, so column A, column B, and column E, they map to red, is it? So that's why over here you can do regrouping. They regroup it, and then you will have only 2 columns for you do the summation for the column, is it? So here it shows the result. So previously what we do is you do the summation by the, so you sum of the rows. So kind of you loop over rows previously. And what over here, what we loop is loop over columns, is it? Yeah, so for the group by here, the idea is you can also do group by the column, okay? And what next it shows is this time we don't do the summation, is it? You do the count. You want to count how many items in your group, is it? So you can just call the count function. And the next part shows it's when you do group by, is it? You can also specify some function that you said, I want to do group by, is it? So this is also interesting. So let's see. So this time for the people data, so this is our people data. This is the data frame. So you have the people, so name, is it? Joe, Steve, Wes, Jim, and Travis, is it? You have the name and some of their information here. That's the people, is it? And here, if you take a look, this is interesting. This group by, it didn't specify by index or by column, is it? What it specifies is some function. It says group by the length, is it? By the length, so this is length is regarding what? Is regarding the index, is it? Regarding the index, okay. So it's regarding, so it's group by a specified function. And if you take a look at the result, because for the name, you have 3-letter name, you have 5-letter name, you have 6-letter of name, is it? So that's why the result is based on the length of the name, and it does the grouping. And then what it does, the operation on it is what? Is the summation, is it? Okay, so that's that part. And then the next one, what it shows is, this time we create a list. So this is of a list, a string list. And then you call group by, is it? For the group by, you group by what? You group by first. You said, okay, I'm going to group by the length of the name, is it? So this is what the previous said, just discuss. And then the second group, you're going to do with what? Is from this list you just provided. And previously we also discussed, is it? You can also do this. And then the length of this must match your data frame's length, is it? And if both match, then you can also do this, even though this list is not part of your data frame. And what you're going to do on this group by is to find the minimum value, is it? Minimum value. And what over here it matches, if you take a look, you will see, because one matches this one matches Stephen, is it? And then this one matches Wes, is it? And this 2 matches Jim, is it? That's why over here for this level, if you take a look under 3, is it? Under the name length of the 3, is it? You have 1 and you have 2, is it? That's because over here you have this 3, and you have this 3, is it? And you have this 3, and this 2. You group them together, is it? Because this belongs to 2, so that's why over here you have it match, is it? And with 5, is it? And the 5 is the Stephen, is it? Stephen is 1, is it? That's why it matches here. Okay, and the 6, it matches 2. So it finds the corresponding matching, okay? So you can also do something like this. This, you can also say it's quite helpful if you want to generate some result, is it? It's kind of using your result table, you give some other name for that level of index, is it? So quite helpful. Okay, what next is that you can also do group by index level. Okay, so here let's see. We have the multi-level of index, is it? Over here it shows, and it's the city and the tenor, is it? And then this is your data frame, is it? So you have multi-level, the data frame generated like this. You have multi-level of index in this case, okay? And then here is that, okay, I'm doing group by, is it? Because it's multi-level, so you can specifically specify which level you want to group by, is it? So here it says, oh, I want to group by the level name is called city, is it? So if you take a look and you do what? You're going to do the count. Then if you take a look at the result, is it? You will have the group by result by what? By the level, the city that you just defined, okay? So that's this part. And what the next part discuss is discussing the data aggregation. Okay, so data aggregation is as it refers to what? So refers you do some aggregation operation on your data. So generally speaking, as you do the mean, summation, minimum, maximum, count, yeah, those kind of aggregation operation you want to operate on your data, is it? So let's see over here, is it? So over here we have this data frame. So this is our data frame. And then you said you want to do group by key one, is it? Key one is so A and B either, is it? So that's either A or B. And over here, so this grouped is your group by object from your group by key one. So it's either A or B, is it? And over here, you can call quantile, is it? So quantile said, I want to get the result, but 90% of that result, is it? Of your calculated result. So what over here, the result is not the mean, is it? It's the 90% of the mean result. So that's what it returns, okay? And next, let's see, you can also define some function. So this function, basically it's to find the offset of the largest value and the smallest value, is it? The maximum value and the minimum value. This is a function you define, okay, regarding certain group, okay? And then over here is, you can also call the AGG function, so aggregation function. Okay, you can specifically call the aggregation function. And for this aggregation function, what is the result will give you is, because you already grouped by, you already finished the group by operation. That's what the grouped object is group by. And under it, on that group by object, then what you're going to apply is not just mean or maximum or summation or count, is it? This time you said, I wanted to find out the difference between max and minimum, is it? So you design this function and then you plug in it with the app, and this will give you the result. Okay, so you can see it's quite flexible, is it? And what next shows is this time our data frame is, we get it from some CSV file, okay, the tips. Previously, we already discussed that CSV file. And you also add a new column about the tip percentage, is it? So regarding the tip data, so you have the bill, you have tip, you have smoker or non-smoker, and a certain day and the time, is it? And the group size. That's generally the information about that data frame. And over here, you do group by, is it? You group by what? You group by day. Is it? It's Sunday or Saturday or Monday, something. And you group by the smoker, it's a smoker or non-smoking, is it? Group by those kind of information. And on that, you select which column. So here you're not to conduct a group by all of your columns. You group by the information using value of what, using tip percentage, is it? And then you can plug in whatever function. So here you said, okay, I wanted to find the mean. You can also directly call mean here. Okay, here it just shows with this aggregation function, you can also plug in some other function that you want. Okay, so if you plug in mean, so it's equal as, you just call the grouped percentage mean. It's similar, is it? And it gives you the very nice result of the mean, is it? Based on first on day, is it, and then on smoke or non-smoke, is it? And over here, you can see it's very neat with the aggregation function versus some single function is you can plug in multiple function, is it? So here, you're going to do 3 operations on your group of the data, is it? So the result you can see, yeah, so it will give you 3 column of data, is it? Versus so far what we saw previously is just a single column of the data result, is it? So here is just say for the aggregation, data aggregation, you can specify multiple operation and then plug in them all in that add function. And over here it's just true, you can also give your function some other name, is that some other name. Then in this case, you can just plug in with a tuple, okay? So over here it says, because I maybe want to generate the result, the report, my report, I want to match the definition like in my report, is it? So in this case, I want to rename the mean as full and rename standard deviation calculation as bar, is it? So what you will get, you see, full, is it? The output is going to be full and bar, but basically full and bar is your mean and standard deviation, okay? So it's just you can rename it. And over here is you can also put the group of the aggregation operations in a list, okay? And then you can then plug them in to the add function, okay? And you can specify multiple columns. In this case, it's 2 columns. This is, and then in this result, you can see the 2 columns, then under each column, you have number count, you have mean, you have maximum, etc. So it's, so the result, the report, so generally this is used for you to generate a report, etc. So it's quite nice, etc. with the group by operation. And what next shows it's similar, you can rename it, etc. So over here you see, because sometimes you may want to do translation, as they translate to some other language in this case. Then it shows, yeah, it's pretty easy to do that, is it? We just use the tuple to do the map. Okay, and what the next one shows is you can also provide over here, is it, okay, with, you can also use a dictionary to do what we just did, is it? So over here it says, okay, under tip percentage column, I'm going to do this group of operation. I'm going to calculate minimum, maximum, mean, and standard deviation. Under size column, I'm just going to do the single summation operation, is it? So the result you can see, oh, for tip percentage, you conduct a full operation. For size, you just conduct a single operation, okay? So that's what that part means. Okay, and what next shows is you can also turn off like this kind of multi-level output for your group by, okay? If that's your goal, then you just turn off it as, you just put the option as index as false, okay? Then even though you do the group by, is it you do the, but you can see for the output, it's the day and the smoke. Previously, day and the smoke serves as what? Serves as index. Is it? Serves as index. But this time, day and the smoke are not index anymore. They are column. Is it? Because you turn it off. You turn it off. So the index just has the default index, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those numbers. Is it? So because that purely just depends if you want the result returned with index or without index, okay? And what next shows is we can also call apply function, okay? For the apply, it's just the general split and apply and combine, okay? So let's take a look. The first is we define a function of 0, is it? So this function will take a data frame it will take a default number as 5. It will take a default column as tip percentage, but you can replace that, okay? And what you are going to do is you are going to do the sorting, is it? Sorting. Okay, so then you can try with our tip data frame, is it? Suppose you just want to get the top 6 value, is it? So this is what it will return, is it? Then let's see, for our tips data frame, and we do the group by, is it? Group by what? By smoker, is it? And you're going to apply, you can call apply function this time. Apply what? Apply that top function you just defined, is it? So over here just shows it's very flexible, is it? You can also plug in this function you just defined, is it? Then you can see the result, and it will do what? It will pick the top 5 and based on tip percentage, is it? Yeah, so the result, you see, it's top 5, and it's based on smoker or non-smoker, is it? And based on top 5, is it? The top based on the tip percentage, is it? Yeah, so that's what the apply does. And then for this apply, is it? For that top function, if you don't want to use a default value, you can override that, is it? So in this case, what we did is we don't want top 5, we just want top 2, is it? And the calculation we are going to do sorting is not to sort by tip percentage, it's going to be sorted by total bill, is it? Then you can specify them, is it? So this will override the default values, is it? So you can see the result only give you the top 2, is it, in this case? And it's based on what? Based on the total bill, okay? So that's what this cell explains. And that nothing new for the describe, we already know. The n stack, we already know, okay? And what the next one shows is sometimes you may want to remove the hierarchical index, is it? The result from your group by result. In that case, you can also do something like this. You can say group keys equals false, okay? And you can still call it on the apply or whatever the other, the add, is it? And mean some single functions, is it? Just multiple ways you can do. And then in this result, just like what we previously discussed, is it? Then the smoker is not going to be treated as the index anymore, is it? Yeah, but it's still group by, is it? Yeah, so that's what this part shows. And the next one, what it shows is quantile and the bucket analysis, okay? So over here is we have the data frame. This data frame has 2 columns, and some random number generated. And you're going to call the cut function. And you're going to cut this group of data as how many intervals? 4 intervals, etc. So the 4 intervals, so those will be the 4 intervals. Okay, the 4 intervals. And based on the 4 interval and the random number they generated, they will be placed. Is it how many you're going to have the quantile over here? You're going to have the top 10 to be shown, is it? So any data that's just going to be what? Going to be placed in one of the interval, is it? And the result, what it shows, is it? It shows the result is on which interval, is it? That's what the result shows. And then next, let's take a look at this one. Okay, so for this one, we define a function. What this function returns is returns a dictionary, is it? And this dictionary is quite interesting. Okay, minimum is do what? Is do minimization function. and the maxima is going to do the group maximi function. So it does some aggregation operation, etc. A group of defined with a dictionary. And then you call the group by, etc. And the group by with what? With the quantiles, is it? The quantiles we just defined, is it? And you then apply with what? With the operation, is it? This operation that you just defined. So then the result will show us is, because we have that 4 intervals, is it? The 4 interval. So it will give you the 4 intervals and whatever the aggregation operation you apply to them, and group them together like that, the result shows. Okay, so that's regarding cut. Okay, there is another very useful operation called Q-cut. Okay, so Q-cut is to return the quantile numbers, is it? So in this case, how many group, how many quantile you want to have? You want to have 10, is it? And with 10, that means if you have 1,000 numbers, then you are going to have 100 group. So with this quantile, it's different from the cut, is it's more evenly distributed. So each of the group, it will give the same number of the data to that group. Okay, so that's the major meaning for the Q-cut. Okay, Q-cut. So it does the quantile, and then you can also specify the group by, is it? So this time you're going to group by what? By the different quantile group, is it? So basically it's 10% of each of the group, is it? You're going to group by that. And then you're going to apply that group of aggregations that you defined to the data. So the result is shown like this. Okay, so you can see it's quite useful. What next shows us with our aggregation, then a very useful place is you can use the group specific value to fill some missing value, is it? So over here is you have some random number generated, just shows, is it? Then you have some null values, is it? And when you do the fill NA, is it? You can fill NA with some mean value, is it? That's what that part shows. And over here, let's see, okay, so we have some random number generated, is it? And the index, we are going to use this list that we generated. So that's our data, okay? We have this series labeled of data, okay? And then here is specify some value as net, as that's a null value, is it? And then you can call group by, is it? You can call group by, and you group by what? Group by whatever you specify the list, is it? And then you find the mean value, is it? Like this. Okay, and then next, let's see. So what this part, the fill mean, is you define a lambda expression, is it? And if you take a look, this is quite interesting. This lambda expression, what it can do is it can do the fill NA, is it? Fill NA with what? With the group mean. That's what this lambda expression does, is it? Quite interesting. And then, okay, you group by your data, is it? Then you can apply the operation, is it? And here the operation for your group by result is what you do. You're going to fill the value with what? With the mean that you just defined, is it? So yeah, so this time you can see it's quite useful when you have the group by and you combine it with the fill NA. So the next one is similar, is it? And this time with your missing values, is it the null values, you're going to specify, okay, if it's this group, you specify 0.5. If it's West, I'm going to fill with -1, is it? So if you see when you apply that function, is it the lambda expression that you just define, it's going to do the fill NA. But the fill NA is based on the group information. So that's why some is going to fill with 0.5, some it will fill with -1. So you combine the fill NA and the group by together. Okay, so that's quite useful. And the next one, random number and permutation, we're just going to skip that because it's not used a lot by our analysis part. And what next is also quite useful is you can use a weighted average and do the correlation also. Okay, so let's see. So we have this data frame, so nothing new here. And then you said I'm going to do group by the category. Okay, so group by A or B, and here I define a lambda expression, this lambda expression is going to do what? It's going to pick the data column. Data column. What it's going to do is do the average of this column, but it add the weights. So the weights come from the next column. Okay, so this is quite interesting, And then you can call the apply function, apply that lambda expression you just defined. And then when you do the average calculation, this time you calculate the weighted average, okay, versus the regular average that we learned before. And what the next part to discuss is we do some stock data, okay, so that's in a CSV file, okay. And here it shows the last 4 row of the data, okay, so you have the data. And what over here we are going to do is you can define some lambda expression, what this lambda expression going to do is do some correlation. Okay, correlation with what? With a column that you specify, So here, this is SPX 500, this column. And you want to find all of the correlation with this column, regarding this column, okay, the correlation. That's what the correlation. You want to find that kind of information, So how do we do that? Okay, so let's take a look. So the first, you're going to do some data cleaning, okay, drop NA, so nothing new here. And then let's see, over here, you define another lambda expression. This lambda expression quite simple. It's just extract every year, okay, extract every single year. And because previously the data, not just every year, previous all of the data is based on day, So that's why the data size is quite large, it's based on day. And now you define some lambda expression you want to get each year, And then you're going to group by what? Group by this definition, the year, And then you go further down, you're going to apply what? You're going to apply the correlation, You just defined using the lambda to the group by result, Then you see, it's so neat, this result, Give you each year, and because it's correlation, So SP, this is all 1, Because you want to find how the relationship between Microsoft and the SPX 500 in 2003. So it gives you, very nice report about the grouping result. And what next shows is you can also here define apply, within the apply, you define some lambda expression, You want to find the correlation between Apple and Microsoft, So then it will also give you the result, So quite interesting. And what the next one shows, later on we also going to discuss a little bit about a model, okay? create a model. So here it says you can also use the apply and the group by to do some group wise. It said linear regression. Okay, linear regression. So here we define a function regarding this linear regression, etc. And you have x value from certain column, and you have y value from certain column, etc. And you define your intercept, etc. And then you try to do the linear regression. And the linear regression over here based on ordinary least square, okay? And what the result you can see shows you is it also gave you the linear regression information regarding what we just discussed. Okay, so this is linear regression. The last part of this data aggregation is a pivot table, okay, and the cross tabulation. Previously, we also discussed, okay, touched about pivot table, okay. So pivot table, basically, it's also very useful, okay. It's mainly used for what? Aggregate table, okay. So kind of you can also achieving the group by functionality, okay. So let's see. Here regarding that tips data frame, etc. You said, okay, what I'm going to do, you specify the index day and the smoker, the day and the smoker. So what over here, it will do is basically it will do the whatever we just discussed, group by, is it? And the group by you didn't specify. We didn't specify, then by default, the pivot table is going to use mean to do the operation on the group by, okay? So basically this is similar as what we already learned before. It is just previously we specify group by, etc. And then you can also specify the operation on the group by object. That's what we previously discussed. Okay, and then here next it shows, etc. the pivot table. And you said, okay, I'm going to do pivot table on percentage, tip percentage and the size, etc. And the index is based on what? Time and day. And the column is what? Is a smoker or not, etc. So basically, the result also just does the group by, etc. So pivot table can also serve you to do the group by, okay? That's just what that part. And there is another very useful operation for a group for the pivot table is you can specify the margin is true or not. Okay, so what does that mean, the margin? If you take a look at the result, it's pretty similar as what we just saw over here, etc. But if you take a close look, you will find there is an extra column called all. There is an extra row called all, etc. So then in this case, for the pivot table, if you do the margin, etc. So margin, if you turn it on, then it will also do the total calculation along each row and also along each column. Okay, so that's the benefit for the margin part, because sometimes you may want your data analysis result to also generate the summation result by row and by column, etc. So over here it shows again, etc. the all, etc. Yeah, so the pivot table, and for pivot table, you can also specify the operation you want the group by to do, is it? So in this case, you said mean, is it? You can also specify something else. And also the fill value, is it? In case you don't have the result, what do you want to fill, okay? So it's just multiple other options that you can apply. And what the last one shows the cross tabulation, okay? So here we have this data frame, etc. So nothing new here, okay? And what this cross tabulation says, it's a special case of pivot table, okay? That where does what? So cross tabulation, the difference is will compute what? Group frequency, okay? That's what its main purpose, group frequency. So what over here, you also turn on margin, etc. So if you take a look at the result, you will see, yeah, so it use whatever you specify the index and the column to do the group by, okay, and you turn on margin, so it will do the total by row and also by column, okay. So that's basically that's all for what we discussed today.